Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Today is again a special interview set up by my friend Adam Dorn from the Fitchburg Fire Department. Has brought a special guest here, and I don't want to steal Dorn's thunder. So, Adam, who have you brought to us today, and what are the conversation we're going to be having?
Yeah, well, as you know, this week is Arson Awareness Week, and through the course of my career, I've been able to be present for different fire investigations, as we've talked about. One of them that really stood out to me was when we had our house explosion in Fitchburg a few years ago. During that time, it was a completely new experience for me. I hope we never have to experience it again. But while we were there, we had so many different agencies and investigators on site shortly thereafter. And one of the people that I was able to personally interact with and got to just try to be a sponge around this gentleman when he was there and just take up as much information as I could was Bill Fulton. He is with the ATF. He's a special agent, certified fire investigator, and he's based out of the Madison, Wisconsin field office. He's been a huge, I'm going to call him a fixture in the fire investigation world in the Madison area and nationally as well. But he's been such a huge benefit to us in Fitchburg and regionally when it comes to fire investigations, because there's many times when a fire happens, it gets beyond what the local municipality can take on. And we, just like it, fires or EMS, police departments, we ask for help from other organizations, and investigations, it's no different. So, as we talked with our local fire investigators before, and now the state investigators, today we got the ATF agents with us, and I am just very thankful and pleased that they were willing to help us out with this interview today.
Bill, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself. First off, what is your role for the ATF and what you do on a daily basis?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks again for having us. We really appreciate it, Adam. That was an incredible introduction. I hope I can live up to that. So I do remember meeting Adam at that scene itself. It was a tremendous house explosion and an incident, not only for us as an agency as ATF, but clearly, for Fitchburg as well. But I mean, ATF is a federal agency. We are the federal agency that investigates arson and explosive cases across the country. I am a certified fire investigator, which means that I'm a special agent, but on top of my special agent duties, I also specialize in conducting fire investigations, post-blast investigations as well. So basically how a fire starts, and then who is potentially responsible for potentially starting that incident. I mean, as you know, fires are difficult scenes to investigate, and it could clearly be an accident, or it could actually be a crime. So when ATF comes and shows up at a scene, it doesn't mean that, they're firearms involved or it's a major incident. It could be, a simple house explosion or a simple, residential type fire. But as far as ATF and being a certified fire investigator, we go through a 2-year-long program. It's equivalent to a master's degree, where we conduct 100 origin and cause investigations. We author 80 origin and cause reports. We do a lot of online training. We do a lot of in-person training. We attend 5 graduate classes through Oklahoma State University, as well as author a research project, a significant research project. And all that at the 2 years, we're mentored by a senior CFI with our agency. So it's a very extensive program. And we're also certified with the International Association of Arson Investigators as CFIs. So I've been in the Madison field office for 12 years, joined ATF in 2009. Prior to being a special agent with ATF, I was a local fire marshal in Virginia, where I was with that department for about 10 years, left as a lieutenant, riding a fire truck. But I spent most of my career with Henrico Fire in Virginia, on the front lines in the fire service.
Well, that is a impressive and a lot of training going into that. And I'm suspecting that when we call in the ATF to investigate fires, what is that threshold? So why would a fire department, police department, or other organization want to call you in on these cases?
Sure. There are a couple of different levels. In order for a federal arson case to be prosecuted federally, it has to affect interstate commerce. So commercial buildings, rental properties, sometimes houses of worship, like arson awareness this week in types of civil unrest. We get involved in cases like that. Anytime anyone's using any bombs or fire bombs like Molotov cocktails, anything that affects commercial businesses, we can prosecute those cases federally. Doesn't mean that we can't come to a normal residential fire. Anytime the state and locals ask for our help, we respond. We don't, I work very closely with the Wisconsin State Fire Marshal's office. So there's a thing in the fire service called the chain of command, and we don't like jumping that chain of command. So if Adam in a local fire department needs assistance, I'll let the state fire marshal's office know that a local department has called and requested my assistance, and essentially welcome them to respond with us. We don't typically jump the state fire marshals at all. We're very close partners with our state partners there.
And Dorn, as we're talking about this and calling in, I guess for people who aren't familiar, and we've got to explore this in the past, but we do have fire investigators. But where is that threshold on the fire side of your guys' ability to process a scene and then decide that we need to bring in somebody like the ATF to help out?
Yeah, great question, Jeremy. A lot of times our threshold, the automatic ones are as if there's death, either to a civilian or a firefighter, that's an automatic call to the state fire marshal's office. Outside of that, if it's a great amount of structure or property that loss, sometimes people may call if it's let's just say $1 million or more. I mean, that's just a random number I'm picking right now. But if it's a large value, we'll call in the state's fire marshal's office to assist us. A lot of times when it comes to collecting evidence, we understand the steps to collect evidence, but that's not something that we are proficient with. And so we will ask the police department to help us with that. And if it's above even their scope, or what they're comfortable with, they will request as well. And a lot of times, I want to say 90% of the time when we request assistance, because the State Fire Marshal's Office and the ATF is more of a law enforcement organization, we go through our police department to make those requests. Just because it makes it works a little bit easier for us. It's one contact that we have to make locally, and now the police department can take care of the rest of that contact for us. It just frees us up to keep the scene integrity going for us.
On prevention of arson, and you may think, well, that's kind of a loaded question, like what do you do? But it actually comes back down to the basics of smoke alarms, keeping your house clean, protecting vacant houses. But what other tips would you provide here for arson prevention?
I mean, like you said, Jeremy, it's a lot of the basic stuff. Some of the first things that come into mind, if you own a property, keep your property clean. Don't let a bunch of stuff just pile up, because people with curious minds tend to do different things, and that's one of the reasons that things like this happen. So keep your property clean. Know who's around your property. Know who should be there, who shouldn't be there. Encourage your tenants, if you own an apartment building or different properties, encourage them to make those calls if they see something, say something about it. Those are some of the real basic things to do. But other than that, like you said, make sure you have the smoke detectors, make sure your fire alarm systems are working, make sure your monitoring systems are working. When you own a building, a commercial building, make sure those are all kept up to date, because all of those things provide an early detection, or at least, as Bill was saying earlier, if you have video systems and alarm systems, those are all different aspects that we can use to help determine the time of an incident, when it started, that kind of stuff. Make sure they're working. It's like taking the smoke detector battery out of the smoke detector in your home. It doesn't do you any good if it doesn't work. So make sure they're working, make sure people know who should or shouldn't be around, that kind of stuff.
Bill, talk about the resources and the folks that you can bring in to these investigations, because when I think of ATF, I do think of a lot of resources that you can bring into these investigations.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeremy. So a lot of the things that we provide along the fire and explosion components, we have something called a national response team. And our national response team can be deployed anywhere within the United States within 24 hours. And typically we're able to bring anywhere between 18 to 24 agents into an area. Hot topic now, or civil unrest. The most recent one we had in Wisconsin was in the Eastern District of Wisconsin, which was in Kenosha. So we were able to deploy that team into that area and provide those resources to the state and locals, and assist with conducting multiple scenes. We're able to stay there for essentially as long as it takes. Typically deployments can last from 5 days to 10. I was deployed to Minneapolis during that situation for 20 days in a row, but essentially getting it to a point where it's more manageable for the state and locals to take over from that portion. One of the other resources that we have is our Accelerant Detection Canine program. In Wisconsin, there is an ATF trained canine, a dog that can sniff out accelerants and ignitable liquids. And that the owner of that dog is the Wisconsin State Fire Marshal. The owner of that dog is the Wisconsin State Fire Marshal's office, and the dog is trained with the handler. And that agent is Tiffany Ince, and she's out of the Eau Claire office, and she's able to be deployed anywhere within inside of Wisconsin, as well as outside, because she is also attached to our ATF National Response Team. ATF is also able to bring in additional resources like auditors, polygraphers, profilers. We have access to all those different agents and components to bring to fire and explosion scenes.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's all on solving the case, and I think turning our attention to that and the prosecuting of cases and folks. Obviously, everybody wants to, when something happens, we want to get to the bottom of it. We want to break it down, and if somebody is committed a crime, they're held accountable. So talk about that process and taking that through to sentencing.
Yeah, you bet. So, we come in and we don't come and take over a case. We come in and work side by side with our state and local partners. It's one thing that ATF does really, really well. We just have additional resources that the state, may not actually have. We will assist with state prosecutions. We like to, if we're able to take our cases federal and they actually affect interstate commerce, we will provide those cases to the United States Attorney's Office, and they'll make the decision as to whether or not they will accept the case and prosecute it federally. One of the other resources I didn't mention before is our ATF Fire Research Laboratory. So with fire investigations, we use something like that you used in the 4th grade called the scientific method. And part of testing those hypotheses when you are attempting to get to the origin and cause of an actual fire is testing your hypotheses. And one of the things that ATF has that we're able to bring to the table is our fire research laboratory, where we can reconstruct up to a 2.5-story building inside of our building and test our theories on how fires may have originated. And that's a resource that no one else has other than our agency. So that's something that we're really proud of.
All right, Adam, as we start to wrap up here, one area that we talk about a lot is education and continuing education. And I'm just suspecting that the ATF probably offers some educational things, but how important is that for you? And then maybe you can ask Bill, and I'm betting you two work together in some front.
Yes. So education is very important. Just like everything else in the world, our field, the knowledge that we need to have is constantly changing. Um, and the amount of information that we need to know and understand. Uh, when I first started this, I was like, this is way too much for me to really understand. Where do I start? How do I do this? And that was one of the things that um, my mentors in fire investigation said, hey, you got to get involved in this DACARI program. I'm like, well, what's that? It's the Dane County Arson Response Initiative. And it just so happens that throughout the course of time and currently, Bill is one of the co-chairs of that organization. And I'm not going to steal Bill's thunder about what the organization is all about, but all I can say is that in the last year and a half, it's been absolutely amazing with the training that's been put out. And I'll let Bill talk more about it.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So the Dane County Arson Response Initiative began in Dane County in 1997. And so it's been around for a long time. It's been primarily supported financially through the Dane County Fire Chiefs Association, which are the 28 different departments that make up the Dane County Fire Chiefs Association. So they financially support it. And what DACARI would normally be prior to COVID, it was an in-person monthly training program that brought state, local, federal individuals, both law enforcement and fire service individuals together to conduct hands-on training. Since April of 2020, we were able to take it all online and all virtual. So myself, as well as the executive board, we've been able to put together 17 different virtual trainings. They're all advanced trainings, trainings that state and locals wouldn't normally get unless they traveled to a national conference. It's all free of charge thanks to the Dane County Fire Chiefs Association. And we're able to essentially do it from the basement of our homes. So we provided 25 hours of continuing education for fire investigators. We've been able to reach 49 states and 13 different countries. We've issued over 3,000 certificates for training, and we've had over 8,000 video views. We've established a website. So, it's all because of COVID, and we were able to adapt and overcome. And, here we are, coming up a year later, and we've been able to reach a whole lot of people by, partnering with our state and locals and providing that training. So it's been a tremendous experience, and it's been a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, Bill, I appreciate you sharing that. And, education and I suspect in this area alone, is always, there's always things that are changing and the technology and, the way you investigate probably gets a little bit easier, yet a little bit harder. So you got to keep doing that, and sharing ideas is awesome. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time out today. Adam, thanks for setting this up. Appreciate it. It's been so much fun to have great guests like you, Bill. And, thank you for everything that you do day in and day out. We certainly appreciate that here in Fitchburg and, of course, across Wisconsin and Midwest. So appreciate your time. Adam, we'll talk soon. And Bill, you have an open invitation to come back and visit us anytime here on Talking Fitchburg.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you. We'll take a quick break. More to come. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.